Yo, what's up guys? You got pokeaim here with another Pokemon Sword and Shield video. Now in this video I'll be talking about some new items in Pokemon Sword and Shield, and one in particular that is going to change the way competitive's played forever, right? It really is. But before we get into that, if you guys don't want to have spoilers on the items in Pokemon Sword and Shield, whether they were officially released or just rumors around the internet, don't watch this video. It's not the video for you. Before we get into the item I want to talk about, I'll just give you guys a quick refresher of what we got the other day. And if you want a more in-depth video on this, there is one on my channel. I'll link it in the description. But we obviously got the reveal of mints, and they're nature mints that change basically how a Pokemon will grow. So if you have an adamant nature on Pikachu, that means you have plus attack minus special attack. That's the effect of your nature, right? But if you use a modest mint or a timid mint, you'll either get, if you use the modest mint plus special attack, minus attack, which would be better for Pikachu in most cases, unless it's running like an extreme speed volt tackle set. Again, this is just a quick refresher. If you want to see a full video of the breakdown of the official news, I have a video. I'll link it down below. We obviously got the buff to the vitamins, steroids, special supplements as they call them here, where you can use unlimited on your Pokemon to max out their EVs. Not unlimited, but it goes towards the max of the EVs. Before you can only use 10. And then of course we have the experience candies, which are like buffed rare candies, except they don't give you a level, they give you experience. And you can see right here we got 30,000. So this Wellis went from level 51 to 53 by using the extra large experience candy. Okay, that's all fine and dandy, and that's the official revealed stuff, right? You can check out a whole thing about why this is great for competitive Pokemon, in my opinion, down below. But we're gonna talk about now this item, and there's two items, but one of them is obviously way better for competitive Pokemon. I'm about to show you right now. I'm going right to it. The heavy duty boots. These boots prevent the effects of traps set on the battlefield. What do you think of traps when you think of Pokemon? You think of hazards, right? If I'm reading this correctly, and I think that's the only thing where it comes to Pokemon, right? Basically, if you wear these heavy duty boots, your Pokemon will be immune to hazards. So you won't be hit by sticky web, so your speed won't be lowered. You won't be hit by spikes, so you won't be taking damage. You won't be hit by toxic spike, and you won't be hit by stealth rock. And this is so huge for competitive Pokemon because basically it's a hazard game, right? Stealth rock are undeniably the best move in the game. Ever since they have been out, since Diamond and Pearl, they have been the best move in the game when it comes to a single standpoint. Obviously, VGC is different. There's less of emphasis on hazards because you have 4 Pokemon, limited time, limited moves, whatever. We all acknowledge that. I'm talking about singles. It's going to change the singles competitive game right here. I probably have to title it that just because I'll get some complaints. But these are so amazing because this is, first off, this is a nerf to stall teams. This is a nerf to well, it's also a buff to them as well. It's a buff to nerf to like all types of teams, right? Because a lot of stall teams, for example, they usually function in a way where they set up hazards and then they have pivots or these bulky Pokemon like Toxapex or Chansey or Skarmory or Tangrowth, where they'll set up hazards with, they'll set up spikes with Skarmory, and then when you bring out your fire type to threaten Skarmory or your electric type, they'll go Chansey to sponge the hits. But when you brought in that fire type and the electric type, you obviously just took spikes, right? You might have taken Stealth Rock as well if Stealth Rock was set up. You might have taken T-Spikes if Toxapex set up Toxic Spikes, right? But wearing these boots prevents you from the effects of the trap set on the battlefield. Now, I hope that means the effects of spike is it does damage to you when you enter it, right? But I hope it doesn't mean that like toxic spike go up and then you just don't get poisoned but you still get hit by stealth rock. I really hope that is not what it means, right? But this is so incredible as well because there are so many Pokemon that have been limited by stealth rock, and a few to come to mind. Charizard, though it obviously makes a way most of the time when it had a Mega with Mega Charizard X and Mega Charizard Y. Offensive builds don't like to switch, especially when hazards are up. They shouldn't be switching anyway. They're offensive builds. They should just be attacking and making the pivot that they need to not give up too much momentum to their opponent, right? But this just changes the game because now a Pokemon like Charizard, for example, which just got a Gigantamax form, right? And if you guys didn't know about Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing, it does not require a held item to use. It doesn't require a held item. So a Pokemon like Charizard might be able to actually find its way to the OU tier because it can step up on the field when Stealth Rock are up and not take any damage, and then Gigantamax and obviously go for its G-Max move and whatnot, that wildfire thing, that whatever it's called. Yeah, G-Max wildfire. So that's so cool. But obviously other Pokemon that would be effective, whether or not they're in the game, I'm not like spoiling what's in the game and what's not, but a Pokemon like Volcarona, for instance, would usually require, well, Charizard, Volcarona, basically same thing in terms of taking Hazard, but they would usually require heavy Rapid Spin support, heavy Defog support in order, or even Magic Bounce, in order to allow that Pokemon to do what it's trying to do, right? In Volcarona's case, it's usually Quiver Dance up and sweep. Charizard, if it's Zard Y, or was Zard Y back in the day, because again, Megas are not in this gen, it would just try to come in and throw off very powerful drought-boosted flamethrowers or fire blasts or solar beams or focus blasts or roost off damage, whatever it may be. But now, especially with the fact that we have a limited dex going into Pokemon Sword and Shield, because they are a lot of Pokemon cuts, as they already mentioned, this is so cool because it means that even though, because obviously a lot of Pokemon cuts mean, okay, we're going to miss a lot of Defoggers, okay, we're going to miss a lot of Rapid Spinners. Not to mention, we typically don't get the tutor moves, or at least the good tutors, in the first game, right? We typically get it in whatever the expansion, which would be whatever the second game of it, as in like in Sun and Moon versus Ultra Sun and Moon, we obviously got a whole lot of different changes, right? So we don't typically get that sort of thing going in unless we go into the new game. So yeah, Defog might not be as prominent, but not also as necessary. And I think this item is going to play such a huge role on any type of Pokemon, on any type of team, right? Because again, offense doesn't like to switch when their hazards up, and it's kind of forced not to, but not having to worry about hazards. Even hazards might take a step back because this is just I mean, there's no such thing as item clause in Smogon singles, and this is also just the thing that talked about. It's a special item known as a Dynamax Band, so like it's not a held item, right? So Pokemon can just run this and still do their thing and be good. And there's plenty of Pokemon that don't necessarily need an item to be incredible at what they do. And again, I'm looking at like I'm on like Volcarona or whatever equivalent we might end up getting in this this generation. But I love it because so many times, and if we actually look at the and I'll talk about the other item that was there too, which I think is pretty cool too. But if we actually look at the tier, if you go down to some, there are obviously Volcarona and Charizard, which is in current OU, right? And those are the only ones that are 4 times weak. But if you go down lower and lower, there's plenty of Pokemon that would be very annoying to fight if they didn't take Stealth Rock damage. And I'm talking about something like a Pressure Articuno, right? This Sub-Roost Articuno is incredibly annoying. It's incredibly annoying in the lower tiers, and luckily the fact that Stealth Rock are up and stuff like that, for the most part in every single game, makes it a lot easier to deal with. And obviously, you know, there's Pokemon that just do its thing better, or it doesn't necessarily have that big niche in OU. Actually, think about it. Maybe I might use an Articuno before Ultra Sun and Moon ends. But I think that's such a cool addition, and it's going to make a lot more Pokemon viable, a lot more playstyles viable, and I think that it can be a nerf as well as a buff to like stall type builds. Because again, a lot of them they basically want to wear you down, right? Whether it be with hazards or status, and they don't have if they don't have the hazards to wear you down, especially if you put this on a regenerator Pokemon, you just come right back in and don't care about the hazards at all. Now, of course, there's a second item that was also shown. It's called the Blunder Policy. I'm a little bit upset it's not called the pokeaim Policy, I'm gonna be honest, but it's called the Blunder Policy, and it raises speed sharply when a Pokemon misses with a move because of accuracy. So this is an item that gives you +2 speed. It gives you +2 speed if you miss an attack. And I think that's a really cool item as well. I want to compare that to kind of Adrenaline Orb. It's obviously not the same thing, but you know the way Adrenaline Orb is if you get hit with an Intimidate, you get a speed boost, right? And that could be pretty cool. You might have seen some sort of things like that in VGC, but in this, or I also saw a really cool Latias set in the UU tier, and it was Combine Latias with Ice Beam, right? And one of the most common current revenge killers for Latias in the UU tier is Crocodile. It's Choice Scarf Crocodile. But Choice Scarf Crocodile almost always runs Intimidate because that helps it also check Pokemon like Scizor and other physical attackers in the tier, right? So when Crocodile came in on the Latias, it activated the Adrenaline Orb, gave it that speed boost, and it was able to knock it out with a +1 Ice Beam, right? So that was a pretty cool setup. And like this, we might see some cool little, basically, I could toss like a very inaccurate move. Let's say Zap Cannon, right? I could toss Zap Cannon on a random electric type. Let's say what's the next type that comes to mind? I mean, there's a lot that might not be in the game, but let's say Raikou, for instance, right? Let's say I use a Raikou with Zap Cannon and I miss, but now I have the speed boost to outspeed the Choice Scarf ground types. Like I'm taking Crocodile, even though I talked about Crocodile in the previous video about Intimidate. Now I have that speed boost to outspeed it, and I can hit it with something like, you know, Hidden Power Ice or something like that if I'm boosted. So I think there's a lot of cool little strategies you could do with this, but the biggest thing is definitely the heavy duty boots. So let me know your thoughts, guys, down below. I just think it's so cool for especially those types that kind of get shafted, right? I'm talking ice types. Ice types are great offensively, but defensively they suck and they're weak to hazards. I think heavy duty boots can be pretty cool on rapid spinners as well. Let's take Claydol, for instance. It's not very good of a Pokemon, right? It has mediocre stats. It has, the cool thing it has going for it is that it has Levitate and it resists Stealth Rock, right? So it has Levitate, so it's immune to most hazards, and it resists Stealth Rock, and it has Rapid Spin, so it can spin away. Imagine any spinner in the game, and I'm talking from like the top tier spinners, right? I'm talking from Excadrill all the way to the bottom tier where you have Cryogonal and Avalugg, which are not that good because they are ice types, even though they have pretty decent stats, but because they are ice types and they don't resist Stealth Rock and they're constantly taking damage. Imagine putting the heavy duty boots on those type of Pokemon. I don't know how Cryogonal is fitting in these boots. It don't even have legs, but that could be so cool, and it opens up a lot just in terms of gameplay, because the hazards are broken in my opinion, right? How many times in OU have you played an Ash Greninja and you've switched into your Assault Vest Tangrowth for the second time, and now they have their third layer or their second layer of spikes up? That way the next time when they come in and you're forced to switch into Tangrowth, you now have just taken hazards, and now you're taking a full force Dark Pulse to do, and they can 2 KO you, like things like that, right? So I'm pretty excited about the heavy duty boots, as you can tell by my voice. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'm gonna have a lot of Sword and Shield content coming out around Sword and Shield, whether that comes from Wi-Fi battles, showdown lives, moveset guides, max raids, all that stuff, guys. I'm gonna have so much stuff coming out, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, I'll see you guys later today with another video. Goodbye, my friends.